This is Where We Live from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Ray Hardman.
Hi, Elmo.
Hi, Big Bird.
Oh, what's the matter?
Big Bird, Elmo was trying to show what sad looks like.
Wow, feelings can sure change quickly, huh? But sometimes these things happen.
Yeah? Oh, I see. Lovely.
Was it a scary thing that your puppet told the king? Or a happy thing? Or a sad thing? You see, puppets can talk about anything.
Puppets are well known and loved as aids in helping children acknowledge that they have complex emotions and modeling how to express and process them. That was Elmo and Big Bird on Sesame Street, Bear in the Big Blue House, and Mr. Rogers with King Friday the 13th. With a pandemic disrupting children's lives at school and at home, educators have noticed those emotions were more complex than usual, and kids, like adults these days, needed coping skills. Today, Where We Live, we hear from the team of experts at UConn who helped develop a puppet-centered program called Feel Your Best Self, and the educators who are putting it to good use, including showing kids how to shake out the yuck.
Make some noise, Look at your faces, how that changed. How are you feeling now that you just shook it?
Happy.
Yeah, I see lots of happy faces. Absolutely.
Lots of happy faces. Joining me now to discuss is Sandy Chifulias, co-founder of the Feel Your Best Self project, a professor with UConn's Natchaug School of Education, and a trained school psychologist. Welcome, Sandy.
Welcome. Thank you very much for having us.
Sure. Also joining us, Emily Wicks, co-founder of Feel Your Best Self and manager of operations and collections at the University of Connecticut's Ballard Institute and Museum of Puppetry. Welcome, Emily.
Good morning.
You can join the conversation. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. Emily, I want to start with you. This all started with your curiosity. Take us back to that initial email to Sandy. What compelled you to reach out?
Sure. I mean, during COVID, like so many other organizations, we were trying to figure out how to shift our programming online. We had such a diverse number of in-person puppet building workshops, and we were trying to figure out how we can present these workshops virtually and make them beneficial to all, the kids in the schools that were kind of facing uncertainty. And so my graduate assistant and I started reaching out to professors in UConn School of Education, Natchaug School of Education. And we saw research that Sandy and her team were working on, looking at these simple wellness strategies. And so we reached out to Sandy to see if there might be a collaboration. And really, that's where Feel Your Best Self was born.
Yeah, Sandy, pick it up from there.
I'm just so grateful that Emily did that reach out. So as she said at the time, we were really worried about the stress that was going to be presented when schools reopened. All the efforts at the time were focused on physical mitigation for good reason. But we knew that after these long school closures, kids were going to come in, and adults, with a lot of emotions. And we couldn't have complex therapy processes going on in schools for everybody. We needed to have strategies that were really simple that every single person could use and kids could use themselves. And so that's what our team had been working to kind of categorize and make them fun and get them out there so that people could be ready.
Right. Emily, let's take a step back here and let's talk about what this is. This is a ready-made toolkit for teachers and families. It's a series of videos that introduces kids to these 3 kid puppets. They're so sweet. They're so funny. And they model the coping strategies. Is that right?
Yeah, so Feel Your Best Self is really wonderful because it's very flexible to use. So there are 12 strategies, 13 videos total. The first one introduces emotions and feelings and how to talk about them. And then each strategy has a video that's around 5 minutes. But then along with the videos, there's supplemental materials such as tip sheets for families or guardians to use, a facilitator guide for teachers or caregivers to implement it. There are journals and reflection sheets that kids could use to really reflect on which strategies are working for them, which do they like. And then we have activities such as puppet building for the kids to make their own puppet. So it's really nice in that it's accessible, easy to implement in the classroom, but very flexible. You can use the parts that you want and kind of implement it into your already existing routines and structures.
The videos are already getting attention. They were just nominated for a Kid Screen Award. And Sandy, you said that's like the Oscars for kids programming.
Well, that's what I've been told anyway. So
Okay.
the best part about this whole project is, Emily and I we're not set out to be executive producers of award-nominated shows, but yeah, we're super excited to be up there right along with CBS Kids and the Nickelodeons and all the big groups in the world in kids programming.
Sandy, talk to us about how these videos are told from the perspective of these kid puppets and why that's so important in this endeavor.
Yeah, it was very intentional as we were getting started in developing the stories and the scripts to teach these strategies. We wanted to make sure that it wasn't how you're being told how to do something, right? It's about learning how to cope, and each of us learns to use things in different ways. So it was really important to us intentionally to set these scripts up so that is very limited adult puppet. It's the three kids really teaching each other and showing each other how they navigate these everyday problems by using these strategies.
I was really impressed, Sandy, with the situations that you put the kids in so they could have these heavy emotions. I would imagine having situations that the kids were involved in was important to this so the kids can relate to the video.
Yeah, and have those situations look like things that can happen every day in everyday life.
Right.
Things that you might navigate.
Yeah. Emily, talk about the Ballard Institute's role in this. The puppets and the voices are just really, really top-notch.
Thank you. Yeah, so the Ballard Institute Museum of Puppetry here at UConn, has a rich history of puppetry and working with the Puppet Arts program, which is also part of UConn's Dramatic Arts and School of Fine Arts. So when we went to make these videos, we, had this wonderful kind of foundation of alumni in the puppet arts from the puppet arts world. So we were able to collaborate with both students, such as graduate assistant Yaniv Frank, and the voice and puppeteer for CJ, Staff Shear. But we were also able to reach out to so many alumni of the program. Sarah Nolan, who worked as the creative director, producer, so many things, really was instrumental in the program. And, the puppets were built by a Puppet Arts alumni, John Cody. So working with those students and alumni was great for us because we really had all these experts that could help us create these videos. And I think they really made us expand our imagination of what these videos could be and just made them turn out so much more amazing and dynamic than we ever imagined.
Sandy, I loved Turn the Dial, this whole thing where the kids get into a tough situation and they kind of flip the script. Tell me about Turn the Dial.
Oh, Turn the Dial is a fun one for us on our team too. As we navigate our own challenges through the project, we oftentimes stop and say, maybe we need to turn the dial and think about. It's a way of shifting your thoughts, how you're perceiving a situation, and not necessarily saying, hey, that's a good or bad way, but maybe we just need to shift our perspective.
You have a bunch
of story.
Yeah, and you have a bunch of these. You got Shake Out the Yuck, which we talked about. Belly breathing was a good one. How did you develop these?
We sat with a map, actually. So going back to that original point that when we knew when schools were coming back and families were trying to get their kids ready to come back to school, whatever we needed could be something that was in your back pocket, something that could be really easy to use. So we took a look at the literature and the evidence within this kind of category of CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy. And we started mapping out and taking all of the individual strategies that we thought could be very simple, so taught in 3 or so steps, and again, had evidence behind them and could be packaged really fun. Like you said, Shake Out the Yuck or Turn the Dial. Those are cool names.
Yeah, absolutely. Emily, you mentioned earlier that part of the curriculum for students is to make their own puppets. Tell me how that works within this program. Why is that important?
Yeah, so there's such, a rich history of using puppetry in education and therapy. And actually, we just put up on our website a whole review of evidence behind using puppetry in the classroom. And so, when we were creating this, we didn't want the puppetry experience to just stop at the videos. We often see puppets on TVs and movies, but we loved the element of now giving the kids a puppet so that they could learn how to use it, but also really use it thoughtfully with the strategies, because puppets are a way that students can have a voice if they might be scared to talk about something. It also can make them understand perspectives of others a little bit more, so they might be more empathetic. It's fun. You can't help but make a puppet or put a puppet on your hand and not smile. And so you heard it at the beginning of the show with the kids at Natchaug school. They're having a good time, and that itself helps shift emotions if you're feeling a little heavy. So with this project, we have a puppet building guide on our website, and we have a suggested kit that people could use, but we also offer different alternatives so that it can be as accessible and cost efficient as possible.
Emily, going back to the videos, I mean, why is it that puppets seem to provide this seamless vehicle for kids' voices?
I think, when you put a puppet on your hand, it's no longer you necessarily talking, it is the puppet. And I think kids often relate to those kind of more engaging and friendly faces that they see on TV. You often hear parents talking about how, a child might be quiet or shy, but the moment that they see, a puppet, they open up a little bit more and their face lights up. And so I think, puppets allow kids to engage in different ways. And with this project, I think, as Sandy was mentioning, adults could tell a kid to belly breathe or shake out the yuck, but having a puppet kid show you how they're doing it is modeling, and it kind of allows the kids to identify with those puppet kids a little bit more and maybe want to engage and try it themselves.
Sandy Chafulias, this was piloted in Windham, the project, but what are your hopes for this program, and are you hearing from other districts?
Absolutely hearing from other districts. And, we thank Windham very much for piloting with us way back in the very beginning before we even had these cool videos and all of the pieces to it. But we have been working with districts throughout Connecticut and throughout the nation in terms of providing technical assistance and getting more and more resources up on the website so that people can do this on their own. You don't need us to do it. You can use the things that we've created and do it.
And tell me about how families can get involved.
Yeah, so we've had, really been interesting because our original focus was on the whole classroom, kind of, again, this whole school coming back into schools. But what we found is that because there is flexibility in how people are using it, we're seeing lots of different ways. So it could be even with an individual student, say a school psychologist is working on their own behavior support plans or a support plan. They might take a couple of these strategies or the videos and use that to supplement what they're trying to teach. With families, we found, and in early childhood settings, we found great opportunities to connect in bringing families into as partners in supporting the teaching and learning of these strategies.
From Connecticut Public Radio, this is Where We Live. I'm Ray Hardman. Sandy Chafulias and Emily Wicks, Feel Your Best Self program co-founders, stay with us. Coming up, we'll hear from local teachers and family educators about how these kid puppets help their students process tough emotions. You can join the conversation. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live.
Fly away and let your brain really get some rest. Now you'll see it's easy when you do it just like me. Every day you feel a million things, but I promise that it all will be okay.
This is Where We Live from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Ray Hardman. This hour, we're spotlighting a puppet-centered program developed by a team of Connecticut experts aimed at helping kids strengthen their emotional well-being.
I feel so mad and so sad. I don't know what to do.
I think I know something you could try.
You do? Yes, it's called belly breathing.
Belly breathing?
Yes, belly breathing. It's what I do when my feelings are heavy. Like if I'm scared to try something new, it helps me feel my best self.
Well, how can I do it?
Watch this.
That was Kid Puppets Nico and CJ modeling belly breathing, one of about a dozen coping strategies for kids offered in the Feel Your Best Self program. Resources are offered in English and Spanish for teachers, family educators, parents, and anyone with a little loved one in their life. Joining us now to discuss how this took off in her own classroom is Ximena Marin. She's a third-grade teacher at Natchaug Elementary in Windham. You can join the conversation. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. Ximena, welcome to Where We Live. Tell me a little bit about your third graders.
Yes, so I teach third grade in a bilingual classroom in Windham. My class is composed of 20 students, ranging from parents coming from Mexico, Guatemala, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico.
And about what percentage of your class are Spanish speakers?
All of them.
Oh, everyone, yeah.
It is a bilingual classroom. They're all classified as ELL learners.
So tell me how they responded to this program.
Yeah, the first time they told me about the program, I was really excited just because it was in Spanish, and there's like a couple of resources in Spanish out there for social emotional. However, I'm always trying to look for some ideas and other resources out there, so I was very excited. When we were actually able to practice them in the classroom, it was great. The kids loved it. Obviously, they had a visual component, and that's very important. I believe in the little classroom just because the range of Spanish and English varies within. And another reason why they respond very well, I think, is they incorporated, due to the puppets, a lot of movement. And I saw that students respond very, very well to that.
Did you notice, because of the pandemic or for whatever reason, these kids were, having moments where they weren't able to, deal with their emotions before the program?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We actually, as a district, focused the year after we came back from the pandemic, more of a social emotional curriculum, and we emphasized that because, as you mentioned, after the pandemic, there was a lot of emotions, a lot of stuff that kids came through, maybe even some trauma, some things that they wanted to discuss and became very difficult and translated into the classroom. And so having that social emotional aspect in it and prioritizing it really helped us in other academic goals that we had in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. What were some of the coping strategies that seemed to resonate with your students and that are still with them, that stuck with them?
Yeah. 3 of them that really come to mind are belly breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Just that because they seen it before in a way, but they were actually, go through the steps of belly breathing. Shake out the yuck was another one that really, really stuck out with my students. And I believe the 3 wishes. I have this year a very creative classroom that loves to draw and write. So writing down 3 wishes for somebody to care about was one that really, really stuck with them.
Oh, that's awesome. Did they build their own puppets as well?
Yes, they did. It was a really unique and fun process to see them build it and be able to make it their own and very customize it and feel ownership of that puppet. And that translated when they did the activity because they were able to get into character and into the puppet.
Yeah. How long ago did you start with the Feel Your Best Self videos?
Feel Your Best Self. I want to believe it was maybe around October or November when we started.
Mm-hmm. Have you noticed a difference?
I have. Feeling overwhelmed, feeling frustrated. Having a difficult math problem is always something students feel at times, and we constantly go back and reflect on the strategies that we have learned, and we are able to practice them, and they know them right away.
That's awesome. NPR's Corey Turner visited Windham to preview the program, and he said that in his years of reporting in the classroom, he's never seen the kids more joyful. Why do you think this program was unique?
I believe this program was very unique because it incorporated a lot of aspects that maybe in a way are missing in the education system. Like visuals, we can never have programs and curriculums that prioritize visuals, especially in a bilingual classroom. Like I mentioned, movement. They were able to move their hands. They're able to move their bodies. And that's something that kids at a elementary level always love to do. And just the videos in itself, they had like activities or what they were going through very relatable to the students. So they were able to understand and, hey, that has happened to me before. And it worked really well. They loved them, and I personally loved it as well.
Yeah. I was curious. I was, thinking that maybe perhaps given we were talking about the pandemic earlier, maybe given the pandemic, this was the right time for this. This was the perfect opportunity to work with kids, help them identify an emotion, and then a way to cope with that emotion. Did you feel that?
Yeah. I certainly feel that. Coping with any sorts of emotion is something that maybe even us as adults sometimes struggle with. So just having a lot of strategies for them to be able to have and practice gave everybody a wide variety of options.
Mm-hmm. Will you be doing this again next year when you get a fresh new set of third graders?
Yeah, I would love to do another set of this with new students. Like mentioned, it's important for them to have an opportunity and a place to be able to practice this, and it's very important. Coping with emotions is I believe a very important part of my classroom, and I saw the benefits of it. So I would love to continue doing this.
Ximena, Marin, thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you so much.
Ximena Marin is a third grade teacher at Natchaug Elementary in Windham. Still with us, Sandy Chifulias, co-founder of Feel Your Best Self, a professor with UConn's Natchaug School of Education and a trained school psychologist, as well as Emily Wicks. She's also the other co-creator of Feel Your Best Self, and she's manager of operations and collections at the University of Connecticut's Ballard Institute and Museum of Puppetry. Sandy, NPR's Corey Turner visited several classrooms at Natchaug Elementary, including a first grade class taught by Letitia Denoya. We heard her and her students shake out the yuck earlier in this hour. Letitia described the unique social and emotional needs she noticed in getting back into the classroom. Let's take a listen to that.
Sharing and learning how to take turns and learning how to deal with disappointment. And there's just things that they missed out on with not having that socialization. And so we need to find a place to teach it at school too.
Yeah, Sandy, can you talk about how, what might be referred to as pandemic learning loss, just really got compounded with this social and emotional element, and it really made it complicated for teachers, who are, trying to teach a curriculum here?
I think you basically hit the nail on the head. We came back and expected to see, or the focus was on this academic space and how far behind or how much catch up was going to need to happen on the academic side. But if you think about it, the same things happened for social, emotional, and behavioral skills. We have kindergartners who didn't have preschool experiences coming in. We had students that had never been exposed to being able to practice or learn how to take turns, open the door for each other, share a toy. So, we had to, we're now paying much more attention, I think, or at least that's what I see going on around the country and with some of the priorities that states and federal agencies are putting into the social emotional space. You're not going to get the academic gains that you want unless we've looked at the whole child and the development across all of the different spaces that we need.
Right. And we do have a little bit of information from the State Department of Education that said in a recent assessment released in August, there has been some improvement on student achievement despite lingering lags. Sandy, you're also working with the state's Family Engagement Resource Center to help bridge the divide between the home and classroom. And we heard from Veronica Marion, who is the center's manager of Connecticut Family School Partnerships. Let's take a listen.
When we were introduced to this program, it was like a win-win because we see the numbers currently in regards to social emotional learning. It's off the charts. Students are really in the need of something. And so when we met the team at UConn and they introduced the puppets to us. Children will talk more, they will open up more. Just the fact that there's a distraction, right? Just the fact that there's something else that they're focusing on.
This is a question for Emily. Veronica said districts are already thinking about how they might adapt this to an after-school program, teacher trainings, and so much more. Emily, can you talk about how adaptability is a major strength of this program?
Yes, that was something that we had in mind from the beginning. We didn't want it to be necessarily a structured curriculum where you had to follow, steps 1, 2, and 3. We wanted it to make it so that people can adapt it into their different spaces, whether it be in the classroom, at home, or after school. So what's so helpful about this program is that you really do have these individual parts, but there are also, facilitator guides and tip sheets that you can use to kind of help you figure out the best way to implement it in your space.
Mm-hmm. Why was ensuring this program was bilingual? Why was that critical?
I think you heard it with Ximena.
Mm-hmm.
Her class and so many classes in Connecticut and nationwide are bilingual or have, a high percentage of Spanish speakers. And so for us, we want to make this material as accessible as possible. And part of that was having it both in English and Spanish. And it's really wonderful, I think, for us to, to be able to implement it in 2 classrooms and in Natchaug, to see the videos in Spanish and the kids laugh and engage with it. But then to also see our videos finally in Spanish and have the same reaction is just really heartwarming that we're able to reach such a larger audience by having them bilingual.
Sandy Ciuffulli, is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is core to this program. Maybe you can explain what CBT is.
Sure. And so I think, the tenets of everything we've been talking about today is really what are we trying to accomplish when we use CBT? And that is about emotion regulation. And so when we talk about emotion regulation, it's really important to first start by saying it's not that you're trying to control yourself or control your emotions, or that any particular emotion is necessarily good or bad. It's that we need to build awareness of our emotions, and specifically the intensity of those emotions and the triggers to those emotions. So, maybe sometimes we jump to conclusions too quickly, or we see something as catastrophic, or we have those really tight knots in our belly. So CBT is a technique that is often talked about as this triangle of thoughts, behaviors, and feelings. And in a triangle, all of those parts are connected. So what we do, the behaviors, can affect how you think and you feel, and how you feel can show up in lots of places in your body. So what we're trying to do in CBT is bring awareness to this, especially those thoughts and how unhelpful thoughts might impact the other parts, and then make sure that people have positive coping strategies to help them adjust that triangle to feel their best self. And so Feel Your Best Self is really all about those emotion-focused coping strategies that we have grouped into fun categories that are really accessible, called Catching Your Feelings, Calm Yourself, and Connect with Others.
Let's put this into some practical use here, and let's use shake out the yucks as an example. Tell me what's happening and what shake out the yucks will do.
Sure. So shake out the yuck is one of the strategies that we put under the Calm Yourself category. And it's a very physiological, focusing on the behaviors. So think about it. Just even the word "shake out the yuck" sounds like you're going to do something, right?
Right.
So you're feeling something in your body, and you want to get those yucks, or they're stuck all over you, and you want to get them off. So you figure out your fancy way to shake them off. It could be silly, it could be fun, it could be more quiet, however you want to do it. But it's a physiological behavior that you're working on to, again, adjust that triangle. There's another strategy in the Calm Yourself category called Chillaxing My Head, for example, that focuses on changing your thoughts by distracting yourself. Think of, chillaxing by going to your special place, like maybe it's some sunshine right now for you. So you're distracting your thoughts, which then helps you relax, change your body, the way you're feeling. So the strategies act in different ways, even though they're in the same category. And the point of the program is really to figure out that some of us work better with physiological, like moving, ones. Some of us might think will work better with more mindful or thought-based strategies. So you have to try them out and figure out what works for you in different situations.
Do you find that, it might be more difficult in a way for adults to kind of comprehend this? They might be a little bit more skeptical, and children seem to be a little bit more open-minded about trying these tactics.
So I think that's really funny because, yes, I would have predicted that if you'd asked me a while ago. But now that we're getting into the program, we often hear things like people can immediately think about what Shake Out the Yuck could look like, right?
Right.
Like maybe my dean isn't going to go around shaking out the yuck in his big board meetings, but he certainly knows about it and he's thinking about it. And what we have been hearing more and more as we're going around doing different workshops and to different conferences and sharing information is adults stopping and saying, boy, I wish I had this when I was in elementary school. Boy, I wish I had known about this. Or, hey, I work with patients in geriatric settings. These strategies would be really helpful. So the key piece is that these strategies that we've picked are lifelong. We've just made them kind of fun with cool titles, right? Or catchy titles, I think, hopefully, for kids to latch onto, but the adults can benefit just as much.
Absolutely. And even the part about identifying your own emotions.
Definitely. And that's why we have that introductory video really is some people have been working on identifying emotions for a long time. They're very easily able to do it, but others aren't. So we have that one introductory space to kind of get this idea set about what are emotions. It's not that they're good or bad. Again, we frame them in our project as either heavy, like when you're just feeling too heavy, or feeling light. And we use like a feelings forecast or a weather analogy to help explain that.
Right. I do want to mention that there is more information on the Feel Your Best Self program on our website at ctpublic.org/wherewelive. Emily, I want to get you into the conversation here and more about the magic of puppetry. First, have you found that puppets are also helpful in working with kids with emotional disorders or developmental disabilities, not necessarily within the Feel Your Best Self program?
Yes, puppetry really, as I mentioned, has such a role in kind of therapy and educational situations. So especially with students with disabilities, puppetry can really benefit their learning. It can be adapted to different ability levels and cognitive ability levels within schools. And it can also be used to model, different the strategies, but also, what behavioral skills are expected. So we often see that students also who maybe struggle to voice their own thoughts or feelings can do that when they have a puppet. And I can't tell you the number of parents that, contact me, especially when their kids watch puppets on television, thinking Sesame Street, that, maybe they have some kind of behavioral disability, but with those puppets, they really engage and learn in a way that their parents haven't seen before. And so puppetry really just makes these kind of emotional and social skills much more, I think, available and engaging with kids, of all abilities.
Yeah, and I was wondering, too, whether puppets can kind of help with the hard conversations that you sometimes have to have with children, like around death.
Yes. And I think we've seen that with other, puppet projects, such as Sesame Street. And I think, when we go into classrooms with these puppets and we're asking, how are you feeling? How is your puppet feeling? Sometimes kids share really difficult situations, and often it does revolve around a death of a family member. And with the puppets, they might feel a little bit more comfortable talking about that situation, and those kind of tough feelings that they're experiencing.
From Connecticut Public Radio, this is Where We Live. I'm Ray Hardman. Sandy Chiafuli is co-founder of Feel Your Best Self, professor with UConn's Natchaug School of Education, and trained school psychologist. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Emily Wick, stick around. After a break, we'll spotlight UConn's puppetry program. You can join the conversation. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. This is Where We Live from Connecticut Public Radio. I'm Ray Hardman. Listeners may be surprised to know that Connecticut is home to a renowned puppet arts program, a mecca, really. Back with us to discuss is Emily Wicks, Manager of Operations and Collections at the University of Connecticut's Ballard Institute and Museum of Puppetry. You can join the conversation. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at Where We Live. Emily, I said a mecca. How did the University of Connecticut become so important to the world of puppetry?
Sure. So UConn is the only university of its kind in the country that has a puppet arts program where you can get a BFA, an MA, or an MFA. And in fact, you can also now get an online certificate or a minor in puppet arts at UConn. And this program was created by the Ballard Institute's namesake, Frank Ballard. He started the program in 1965 at UConn. And, students have been coming here from all around the world since then to study puppet arts.
A lot of distinguished alumni, I would imagine.
Yes, we have students that go on to work in all areas of performance, design, and fabrication, and appear in, internationally recognized projects in television, film, designing toys, working in animatronics, teaching, and some alumni have gone on to work with projects, that are so well known, such as Sesame Street.
Puppetry is one of those arts that kind of reminds me of opera in that it kind of also envelops in lots of other different art forms. Is that what drew you to puppetry originally?
Yeah, so I actually have a background in history and library science. So I wasn't even really in the puppetry world. But what I've loved working here with our director, John Bell, and with dramatic arts within the School of Fine Arts is that you're exactly right. Puppet arts and puppetry really encompasses not only kind of, television puppetry, which so many people think of, but so many different material performance and object performance elements. And what's so wonderful about being at the University of Connecticut is that we are able to really show the interdisciplinary art form, collaborating with dramatic arts, with music, with digital media and design, and so many other programs to show that puppetry is really in all aspects of the world.
How many students do you have?
It really varies in the puppet arts program. As I mentioned, there's both undergraduate and graduate students. And I would say that the total number of students ranges. Usually it might be between 15 and 20 total.
Can someone minor in puppetry?
Yes, they recently created a minor in puppet arts. So if they're studying something else, they can also kind of get that minor in puppetry. And that's really amazing to see. In the past, we've had students who are business majors, then switch to puppet arts because of kind of that they love the creativity and the art form. So it's amazing to really see through the classes, especially, there's John Bell teaches an intro to world puppetry that's open to non-majors, and to see the students really engage with the art form is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, puppetry is a very old art form, and it's intended for way more than what we probably think of it here in the United States.
Yes, it has such a rich global history, and that's really what we try to highlight here at the Ballard Institute. So in our permanent display, we really show the world of puppetry, ranging from shadow puppetry, which is really one of the oldest art forms, that you can see in prehistoric times, up to present day puppetry. But really you see it in all aspects of life. It's not just television puppetry, but you see it in theater, and you also see it with technology as well. And what the students are able to create here, especially through collaborations with other departments such as engineering or digital media, is quite amazing.
Emily, you have a puppet collection of over 3,500 puppets. What's the oldest puppet you have in the collection?
Oh, wow. I'm not sure if I could answer that with certainty.
Okay.
I would say that some of our oldest puppets are from the 18th century. We have definitely some hand puppets from Europe, and then we might have even some older shadow puppets from Asia, but I would have to double check on that.
That's amazing. So you've got the museum, you've got the puppet arts program with UConn, and it all happens in the Puppet Arts Complex. Is that right?
So yeah, the students study over at the Puppet Arts Complex, which is at UConn's Depot campus. The Ballard Institute and Museum of Puppetry in 2014 moved from the Depot campus to the downtown stores area, which has been really amazing in kind of increasing our reach and, inviting more people into our space. It's so accessible being in this downtown location and really opens us up for even more amazing community collaborations.
Gotcha. So tell me about the Puppet Arts Complex.
The Puppet Arts Complex is a quite magical space, I would say, where the students are able to study. So that is where the students are creating their works, either for their personal projects or for projects for school. And that is where they're taking their puppet arts classes. So movement, performance, building. And like I said, that's all over at Depot campus. So if someone were to want to join the program and take some classes, they would get to check out that space.
And you need a lot of space because there's lots of times really humongous puppets out there.
Yes. They often are making oversized, large-scale puppets, especially for the Connecticut Repertory Theater productions and other productions that they're a part of.
Tell me, what is, kind of on the cutting edge of puppetry these days? Is there trends? Is it like the rest of the art world where you have trends, things that people are kind of interested in at that particular moment in time?
I think with students coming in, you're seeing a lot of them really interested in the aspects of building and kind of where I see that going has been, within the performance space, kind of more tabletop puppetry where they're manipulating it, on a stage or on a table. But then I think even more so, you're seeing a lot of students interested in kind of the animatronics and mechanisms that can be used in kind of automata or, animatronic objects that you might see, for example, at an amusement park. So a lot of students will go on to work with companies that are creating those types of figures that you see when you go, to an amusement park or, that a business or organization might use in their space. So that's an interesting place where you're seeing a combination of technology with puppetry.
And I was also curious, what makes a really good puppeteer?
That's a good question. I think what always continues to amaze me about the students that I work with is just their creativity. And in fact, I think what we were talking about with Feel Your Best Self, where people put on a puppet and can kind of create their own voice and become someone new. You see that often with puppeteers. While they are acting, puppetry is very interesting because, you're giving life to this object. So you want someone, who can really think about the movement of the object and creating the voice for that character. And, the creativity and kind of just skills that the students continue to show in this program are quite amazing.
So they have to have a good voice, and they have to really make the animation of the puppet seem seamless.
Yeah, you think about it, a puppet is an object, and especially in the museum world, it's always interesting because these objects are static. They're sitting, on a pedestal, and that's not exactly how they're meant to be used. And in puppetry, it's really about giving that object breath and life. And so and I think helping people to suspend a little bit of their reality by when you're watching a puppet show, maybe you no longer see the puppeteer. The object is now the thing that is performing. And I'm always amazed kind of how easily that happens when you're watching a puppet show.
Yeah. Tell me about UConn's place in the world of puppetry. I know you've hosted, national, international conferences for puppetry.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the UConn Puppet Arts program really is one of a kind in this country, and it is world renowned. So we do have students coming from all over the world to study, and with that, we really do try to kind of collaborate and with puppetry organizations around the world. So we've hosted international conferences. In 2015, we hosted the National Puppetry Festival, which had hundreds of people come to here at UConn. And so it's really important that, with our role in educating future puppeteers, that we really kind of stay connected to the larger world of puppetry.
Let's get back to the museum aspect of this, because just like any museum, you have exhibitions there. I reported recently on the Marie Sendak exhibition from last fall. That was so amazing. But this is like, a regular museum.
Yeah, so the Ballard Institute Museum of Puppetry is open year-round. We are closed right now because we did just deinstall the Maurice Sendak and World of Puppetry exhibition, which was, so amazingly successful. And an example of an exhibition that might not seem like puppetry. Maurice Sendak is a beloved author and illustrator,
right.
But part of our mission here is to really broaden the idea of puppetry, and so we were able to show how so much of his work was tied to the world of puppetry. Right now we're about to install our brand new exhibition titled Myths, Legends, and Spectacle: Masks and Puppets of Ralph Lee, who is an artist based in New York and is the founder of Meadowy River Theater Company, and really creates wide-ranging theater productions, but focuses especially on kind of masks and giant figures. And so it'll be exciting to kind of see his objects fill our space. And that will be opening on January 26th. We'll have an opening reception at 5:30 p.m.
Well, Emily Wicks, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Emily Wicks is Manager of Operations and Collections at the University of Connecticut's Ballard Institute and Museum of Puppetry. I'm Ray Hardman. Today's show was produced by Katie Pellico. Our technical producer is Kat Pastor. Download Where We Live anytime on your favorite podcast app. And thanks for listening.
Feels great to be here.
Every day you feel a million things, but I promise that it all will be okay. I'll think of you, and what you do, you will find your way. Feel your best self every single day.